We are always having delusional thoughts every day, but we don't realize just how much of an impact these thoughts have. Actually, to be honest, a delusional thoughts, well, you can't really say that the whole universe is affected, but it's inevitable that they do have an effect. But when it comes to these ripple effects, it's important to understand that the further away you go from the source, the weaker and less noticeable those ripples become as they gradually lose their strength. So, when it's weaker across, the impact is smaller. But within our solar system, well, the solar system isn't actually that big when you compare it to the vastness of the entire universe. What about our every thought and intention? According to the author, they actually affect the movement of the planets within the solar system. In other words, they actually create the magnetic fields within the solar system itself. This is indeed very obvious. But because of all sentient beings' delusions, discrimination, and attachments, if we put it in modern terms, it's all about being emotional. For each of us, our emotions go up and down. Some days we are on a high, other days we are on a low. This magnetic field then changes as a result. There's absolutely no way it can always stay at a high point. Only Buddhas and Bodhisattvas can manage that. When we have a good thought, we are on a high. When we have a bad thought, that's when we hit a low. It really does, in fact, have a cycle to it. People in those distant ancient times already fully understood this. Wise and insightful folks, both in the East and in the West, were well aware of it. These days, for most of us, the most convenient and accessible way for us to look at it is by the week. A week has 7 days, and those 7 days together make up a cycle, which is, in essence, a small cycle. A month is a bigger cycle, and a year is an even bigger one. So, when we talk about cycles, within a year we have spring, summer, autumn, and winter. The cold and the heat, they are all cyclical. The hot summer comes every week. Ancient Chinese also said that the hot summer comes every 7 days. Every 7 days, there's a shift in energy or focus. That's considered the ideal rhythm. And after 7 years, it marks a major change, representing the completion of a big cycle in life. In China, it's commonly said that 30 years makes a generation, and as the saying goes, fortune turns in cycles. That's just another way of describing this cyclical nature. If we carefully read history and observe, from ancient times to now, you'll see these cyclical changes are very obvious. These change. It is caused by common karma. The collective karma of the masses. It also affects our individual karma. It's impossible not to be influenced by it. This kind of influence is what we now refer to as wave phenomena, the waves that our minds emit. This body is made of matter. We know it's fundamentally made up of countless cells. Those cells themselves are made of atoms, and atoms themselves are made of electrons. Ultimately, everything is made up of waves. In the broader environment, the situation with these waves is very complex. They affect us, and we affect them as well. This creates a very remarkably complex magnetic field. We Chinese talk about qi, and foreigners call it magnetic field. The largest magnetic field is the universe. The ones that are most closely related to us are the Milky Way and the solar system, especially the solar system. The Milky Way is much larger, while the solar system is smaller. It is very, very closely related to us. If you know this principle, you'll notice that many students, when they are in the Buddha recitation hall on the 4th floor of our Lay Buddhist Association, are reciting the Buddha's name. You feel that the magnetic field is very comfortable. When you enter this Buddhist chanting hall, you feel happy. And when you come into this lecture hall, you also feel happy. The magnetic fields are different. So, reciting the Buddha's name here in this particular place is quite different from doing it elsewhere. If you pay very close attention and observe carefully, you'll notice that your mood is simply not the same as before. You've already answered this question for yourself in your own heart. Listening to teachings in a lecture hall. If we move to another place, a different lecture hall, and listen to the teachings there, do you think our mood would be the same? It's not the same. So from this, we can see that Feng Shui really does, in fact, exist. Atmosphere, magnetic field, Feng Shui, they're all the same thing. They just have different names, but it's all the same thing. That's why we hold lectures here. Why does the Lay Buddhist Association spend so much money to make the place so dignified and beautiful? You see, all the flying apsaras around us were custom made in China. Hung up, it feels new. In other words, we are affected by it. So, how should the tables be arranged? How should all these decorations be set up? All of these things are radiating. Vibrations. These vibrations can definitely affect our mood, even more than we might realize. So the dignified and peaceful atmosphere of the Dharma hall helps everyone gradually settle in and feel at ease, naturally. In this calming environment, you're able to gently let go of the distractions and concerns of the outside world. allowing yourself to find a sense of peace and clarity in both body and mind. This is the Jinshan Garden where we listen to sutras, learn the Dharma, and chant the Buddha's name. With such a beautiful and tranquil Jinshan Garden, we can listen to the Dharma and chant the Buddha's name with our whole body and mind in this peaceful temple, and truly feel the blessings of the magnetic field of all Buddhas. Therefore, the lecture hall and the Buddhist chanting hall are carefully protected by the Buddhas and Bodhisattvas. The Buddhas often visit this sacred temple, bestowing blessings and compassion upon all who enter. The Dharma protectors, dragons, and heavenly beings. There was almost no interruption. This just goes to show, when we recite the Buddha's name, why do we insist on reciting the 4 characters? Some fellow practitioners and cultivators have indeed heard that there are disasters in this world, that there would, in fact, be disasters in 1999. You can't really say that this idea is, quite simply, without reason. This is because the magnetic field of our solar system is at a low point this year, which is very bad and affects the emotions of all sentient beings on our planet. Big magnetic field bad. So, saying there will be disasters does make sense. It's cyclical, and this cycle is roughly every 500 years. In other words, about every 5 centuries, a repeating pattern of events tends to occur. Every 500 years, there's a cycle, which is related to the arrangement of the 9 major planets in the solar system. The positions of these planets are thought to influence the timing and nature of these cycles. This year's arrangement is, I have to admit, really and truly quite unusual. Really. Generally, astrologers say this is a year of great misfortune, not auspicious at all. The planets have formed a cross in the sky. The Earth is right in the middle, and from the Earth's perspective, the 8 major planets, including the Sun. Our classmates have made a sincere and heartfelt vow, beginning on Monday, to recite the Buddha's name continuously, dedicating themselves to this spiritual practice for 24 hours a day, every single day, without any interruption or pause. This remarkable commitment demonstrates their deep devotion and unwavering determination to maintain mindfulness and cultivate inner peace. That's truly wonderful and inspiring. We are asking for the original vows and mighty power of the Buddhas and Bodhisattvas to support us, so that we won't be affected by this magnetic field. And so we can still, indeed, maintain right mindfulness in this environment. This magnetic field makes it very easy for people to have deviant thoughts. Whenever the planets are aligned like this, society becomes chaotic, and people's minds start to wander all over the place. This poem is well-founded, and its reasoning is quite profound. Back when I was in the United States, I had a good friend as well by the name of Layman Xie Jingshan. For those who studied in the US, especially those living in California, most people are quite familiar with him. Everyone calls him Teacher Xie. He is very skilled at feng shui. Back when Reagan was president, he was invited to the White House to assess the feng shui. Famous. He once told me he firmly believed that the rooms in our houses and homes should all be square or rectangular. People feel much more comfortable and at ease living in those shapes. If you live in a house with odd-shaped rooms, like pentagons or hexagons, and you stay in that kind of place for more than 100 days, you'll definitely start having all sorts of wild thoughts. I recall what he said. You want to try it? Last time I was in Australia, there was, quite literally, a house for sale right next door to us, and, as it turned out, the owner was a Malaysian Chinese. That house was right next to ours, and it seemed like a good buy, so I went in to have a look. When I looked inside, every single room was pentagon-shaped. I asked him, who lives here? He has 3 daughters. I asked, do your daughters have problems? Oh, there are big problems. What kind of problems? They never listen. Here's something. Run off, mind scattered. Right, pentagon rooms after 100 days, anyone would overthink. Only the master bedroom, where the couple sleeps, is square. Rooms foreigners make these polygons. It's fine for guest rooms, since guests don't stay long. But you definitely can't live in them long term. So when I saw his house and he wanted to sell it, I noticed all the rooms were pentagon shaped. I said, I can't take this house. If our people lived here, they'd overthink things just like your daughters. This is just ordinary people. After all, they are affected by their environment. You know, you can't ignore that. Apart from those who have achieved concentration, he does not care. So what is he? Their surroundings change according to their mind, so it's not an issue for them. But we can still be influenced by the outside world. In other words, the external environment can still tempt you. So you can't avoid choosing your environment. In ancient China, why did Mencius' mother move house 3 times? She was choosing a living environment for her son. He has no wisdom, no concentration, and he will be tempted by the outside environment. So how could you? Don't choose. At the Lay Buddhist Association, the environment we've chosen is the magnetic field blessed by the Buddhas and Tathagatas. With the blessings of the 3 jewels from all directions, this environment comfortable. So in this center, from top to bottom, what everyone experiences is a real sense of harmony. As the well-known saying goes, when the family is harmonious, everything prospers. This harmony is also created by the energy field here. If you live somewhere else, there might be disharmony, but when you live here, things come together. Just look at our own families. When we lived in Taiwan, there was disharmony, and it was the same in Australia. But when we came to this place, suddenly things just clicked. Why is that? This means that the magnetic field is related. Blessings of Buddhas and Bodhisattvas. That's why, when practicing, you really have to choose the right center. The center must be dignified and solemn. True dignity comes from a focused mind. A focused mind is what real dignity is. If your mind is wholeheartedly for the community and for the Dharma, that's true dignity. You absolutely can't have even a single selfish thought. If you do, you're aligning yourself with negative forces. If you have thought of closeness, a thought for beings and Dharma, you are in tune with Buddhas and Bodhisattvas. This is what we are talking about, in particular. These wondrous differences, it's not easy for someone to truly and genuinely encounter or experience them even once in their entire lifetime. And if you do, you absolutely shouldn't ever let them go. But there are a few students who, after practicing at this center for a while and putting in consistent effort, start to feel frustrated with their progress and experience a sense of disappointment. When they come back to the center, their minds become scattered and they just can't settle down. Why does this happen? It's because of karmic obstacles and habits from the realm of the five senses coming to the surface. This is actually a normal phenomenon. But you need to have perseverance to overcome it. You need to sincerely repent. This is a bottleneck in your practice. Once you finally break through it, your level will gradually rise to a much higher stage. You absolutely must not let this frustration, this obstacle, make you give up and stop coming. If you do, you'll have made a mistake. You all need to understand. As Master Inu often says, one family's warmth brings 1,000 families' resentment. If you're doing well, others will look on with envy, jealousy, and even try to put obstacles in your way, sometimes. This is absolutely unavoidable. You have practiced well and your skills have been effective. Then the karmic creditors will come looking for trouble. They'll say, he's leaving the 6 realms for the Pure Land. But our grudges and debts aren't settled. How can that be? How could we let him go? Hold him back. That's when you start to experience some hardships. Where do these hardships come from? From your karmic creditors. You might have been a good person in this life, never wronged anyone, but what about your previous life? Or the one before that? Lifetime after lifetime, we have no idea how many karmic creditors and enemies we have. Now that they see us making progress in our practice, who wouldn't feel jealous? Who wouldn't try to cause trouble? That's why every day, whether we are reading sutras, listening to the teachings, or reciting the Buddha's name, we sincerely dedicate the merits to these karmic creditors and enemies. The benefits I gain from my practice are shared with all of you. Everyone gets a share. If you try to obstruct me, then none of you will get a share of the merit. Our achievements are everyone's achievements. When one attains Buddhahood, the very first people to be saved are these karmic creditors and enemies, because there's a connection with them. Why does the dedication verse mention repaying the 4 great kindnesses above and helping those in the 3 lower realms below? That's why. I hope that these enemies, relatives, and creditors on the body path will cause less trouble and obstacles. We must sincerely dedicate all the merits we have accumulated to them. So, the Buddha recitation hall operates 24 hours a day without interruption, with us taking shifts to chant. This is how a proper Buddha recitation hall should be. Master Wu Quan told me yesterday that, since there are disasters happening now, we are chanting for 24 hours a day, and once the disasters have passed, we'll return to normal. What do we mean by a normal? Why? Is chanting for 12 hours a day not considered normal now? 24 hours non-stop is normal. So, since the Buddha recitation hall has been established, it should always run 24 hours a day, without any interruption, always. You all need to understand, the Buddhas are delighted when they see this. Heavenly dragons offer protection. Buddhas and Bodhisattvas came every few days. If this continues, they'll visit daily, not just every few days or weekly. They'll look after you. Welcome all. Fellow practitioners, as long as you have time, you can come into the Buddha recitation hall to chant day or night. If you get tired, there's a place prepared for you to rest. Once you've had a good rest, make sure you get straight back to the hall to continue chanting. And I'll say it again, when you're resting, don't take off your Hai Ching robe. It helps you stay alert. If you take off your Hai Ching, you'll end up fast asleep and forget all about it. I know I would. Don't take off your Hai Ching, just have a short rest. An hour or 2 is enough. That way, it's much easier to stay alert. By doing this, our Buddha recitation practice won't be interrupted, and we'll be chanting the Buddha's name day and night without a break. Not only does this truly help us eliminate our own karmic obstacles, it also helps all suffering beings in the world to avoid disasters and hardship. And finally, this last line, if one is able to hear such teachings, it is truly a rare and precious opportunity for those in the human and heavenly realms.